If you don't know how to manage your money in real estate, then you're never going to have money in real estate.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Build Young, Grow Wealthy podcast. My name is Willita Cherie. Today, I have Joseph with us again, and he's going to talk to us about how to manage your money as a real estate investor. So, without further ado, let's get into this. Hey, Joseph, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. So, I wanted to ask, why did you want to talk about this particular topic? Why is this an important topic to talk about in the world of real estate?
If you don't know how to manage your money in real estate, then you're never going to have money in real estate. So, a number of things that can happen is you could end up getting a big deal and then you could just blow it all. I know from experience. Back when I was first starting off as a real estate investor, I had made 10,000, and to me that was a lot of money at the time. My first 10,000 ever made at once, and it was short-lived because shortly after I thought that I needed to buy all these systems. And the thing that you will notice within real estate is that there's an endless amount of systems that you can pay money for, and everybody asks for $120 here per month, or $500 here, or $1,000 there. So you imagine you can really blow through $10,000 pretty quickly if you're buying every single system that someone is promising you're going to get results from. And that's exactly what happened to me.
So you mean to tell me that it's possible to blow through $10,000 in 1 month on just systems alone? That doesn't include the cost of living. That doesn't include treating yourself because you worked hard. That's strictly just going back into the business.
Well, it didn't just go back into the business. It also went on a brand new iPhone that I felt that I needed at the time. It went on brand new MacBook. It also went on food and bills.
So essentially, you're admitting that when you got your first $10,000, you became a consumer. Were you always like that, or did you feel the need to become a consumer now that you had this newfound money?
If I'm being honest, you would know if you're a consumer because when you have little money, you'll notice that you spend on things that you might not need. So in the past, even before I had money, I would go and buy small things that would be a large amount of the actual check that I was getting from my job. So it just translated into when I was making more money, I just became more of a consumer. I didn't realize I had that as a problem, and so over the years, what I had learned to do was to really manage being a consumer by stretching out my money longer.
How long do you think it took you before you realized, like, man, I am really blowing through this money pretty fast? Was it after that first month, or was it several months or several years later that you realized, like, you have a problem and you need to fix it?
It really hit me when there was a time when rent was due and I did not have enough money in the account to cover rent. And it was a situation where there really wasn't any help. So I had no one to go to actually get the money for rent. So all I remember is thinking, I might have to go get a W 2 job again. And then I thought to myself, I said, I would rather burn in hell than to go get a W 2 job again. And I kid you not, I went and figured out how to make 10,000 in a matter of 3 days.
Teach me your ways. So, was there anybody who gave you some inspiration out there that maybe you thought I need to get my money together? Was there a system that was free, maybe, or a person you followed, or a book you read that helped you really to have better insight as to how you can best utilize your $10,000?
Well, actually, really just paying attention to my girlfriend and seeing her, how she actually spends her money and how she managed her money all those years. Just really paying attention. And so I started thinking to myself, say, I got to get my credit together because on top of with my newfound money, it's not that I had no credit. I had bad credit from decisions that I had made when I was 19 on charging a credit card and then student loans. So I had to also build my credit. So I didn't start building my credit really until my second year in real estate and just really working on that. And I can assure you, making more money within real estate plus having actual credit to also increase your purchasing power, it allows you to stretch your money that much more. And I really started paying attention after looking at my statement my first year in real estate and realizing that I had literally blew through about 15 to 20,000 in just stuff that if you really think about it, I didn't even really need it.
What kind of advice could you give somebody about how to manage their money in real estate? Because Our personal finances are a bit different from business finances. So, what have you learned so far about managing your money in real estate?
Well, what I've learned so far is that when in real estate, people assume that every single deal is going to close on time. And what I've realized is that it's almost better to assume that, well, it is better to assume that every deal is not going to close on time. So always, whenever you get a deal, put money aside, put into some type of investment. That way, if it comes time that you actually need the money, you know where to pull it from, and you know that you have something on the side to cover at least your basic bills for that month until the deals close. That way you're never out of luck.
I see. So in addition to, basically allocating how much money you get to keep for yourself, how much money goes to the business, how much money you put away for savings, because like you said, you aren't guaranteed that a deal is going to close on time. And if you have bills due, your bill collectors really won't care that you don't have the money. They just want their money. So, how would you tell the listeners out there about when you get your money, how important is it for you to make sure that you include taxes as a part of that deal?
Well, you also want to include taxes as part of the deal. Number one, because Uncle Sam is not about to wait on their money. And I really learned that reading a book called Profit First, where you have separate bank accounts and you make sure you have an account strictly for taxes. Highly recommend that book, by the way. The point of that is so that at the end of the year, when you're paying the taxes, it doesn't hit you all at once how much you have to pay back. And you really should also learn your write offs because it allows you to pay less on your taxes as well.
So, I know you're not giving tax advice. So, what are some things when it comes to taxes that you've learned that you can write off for a tax break?
Really, for things that you can write off would be your systems, how much your systems cost, any courses that you might purchase. So really, the more you spend on actual education plus gas mileage and plus any systems that helps you make more money, that actually goes towards your tax deductions.
So let me go backwards for a second. You talked about systems and not having too many systems. What would you say would be the best route, or at least the best route you took when it came to determining which systems worked and which ones didn't work?
You have to go with your actual personality. So, for example, you're going to need something to be able to run comps on, basically meaning finding the comparable properties. You're also going to need like stuff to send out emails. You're going to need an actual professional email. It can't just be something at Gmail because it can, but people respect it more if they see it at an actual domain. It makes you come off more professional. Also, with cold calling, you might need, if you do cold calling, you might need to buy that as a system. And I can tell you now, this gonna run you $140 a month. And that's per person on the line. So if it's two, three people or four or five people that you're putting on one line, you see how that can add up. And a lot of the systems driving for dollars. If you want the app instead of doing it the old school way, that's gonna run you $120 a month or 1200 out of pocket if you want to do it the other way, if you want to pay for it all up front. So systems actually add up. So it really just depends on your personality and what you actually want to do in real estate.
So for the people out here who might be getting started, what would you say a dollar amount wise would be a decent amount you could spend on marketing and systems that could allow you to get a decent result back?
I say that you should be able to get deals in real estate off of really $300 a month and less than that, depending on what state you live in. The only reason why I pay for something to actually comp properties is because Texas is a non-disclosure state. So you would need access to the MLS to see what properties actually sold for. But if you live in a state that's not a non-disclosure state, then you could just use Zillow. So that's going to automatically save you $100 to $120 a month.
If you can do things different with that $10,000 that you first got for your first deal, how would you budget that money today?
Well, I would really just only focus on a few systems, maybe $300 max per month, and then basically just hold the rest of that money till I get more deals and just assume that it's going to be a month or two until I get the next deal.
What's the average time you think most investors have to wait if a deal goes wrong and it doesn't close on time?
I say when you're starting out and you're still building a system within your business or of how to actually find the deals, it might take you a month, maybe 2 months until you see your next deal. So whatever money you make, don't get excited, and you have to think about opportunity costs. That 10,000, if you don't get another deal in 2 months, you really made 5,000 a month. If it takes you 4 months until your next deal, you really made $2,500 a month. So it really depreciates the longer it takes for you to find that next deal.
Another question I have for you, Joseph, is when you get these deals, I know you mentioned $10,000. Is $10,000 the average amount that an investor can make?
It really varies. On some deals, you might get 10,000, you might make 2,000, which those are very low deals. Occasionally 5,000, sometimes it's 15, 20, 30,000. And then if you go and you really get lucky and blessed at the same time, you'll come across a 50 or $60,000 deal. So it really just depends. They very much vary.
So then really that's very important because if you're not guaranteed to get $10,000 and your deal is $2,500 but you don't get another deal for 4 months, and if your rent is running you close to $1,000, which is pretty standard nowadays, at least here in Dallas, you are really stretching that money far and wide. So it is essential that you learn these skills, and I'm going to post a link in the description box for you to get started with the basics of budgeting. But it is important that you take this into consideration. And remember, though, that there are all different types of real estate investments. So, depending on which area you decide to go into, it could vary. So, your profit margins for owning storage units might be different from commercial real estate. Or if you are a wholesaler, it might be different than if you are a flipper. So, it all varies on how much profit margin you have at the end of the deal, but it's still prevalent that you know how to budget no matter which form of real estate you decide to go into. Are there any other things that we should know about when it comes to managing your money as a real estate investor?
I would say something else to know about. If you have no credit or low credit and you're starting off as a real estate investor, really pay attention to managing your money because your cash is all you have backing you. So you'll notice it. It's a difference than when you have a credit card or some type of other way of paying on top of making that kind of money. But if that's your only source and you're paying cash for everything, then you really have to pay attention to your money and you really have to manage it. Otherwise, that can be the difference between do you make rent that month or do you need to go get a job? And a lot of people who get involved in real estate, they don't realize that. And that's kind of how they get knocked down and have to go get jobs or they have to go and do whatever else they can to try to make money on the side because they mismanage their money. They just see the dollar sign amount. They never factor in taxes. They never factor in the future. They only was looking at the present. And then they assumed the best. So I would say always assume the worst. Murphy's Law. What could go wrong will go wrong.
So I have something I want to add to that. And this is impromptu, guys. None of this is scripted. We are literally having a conversation here. But I'm curious, as a real estate investor, how can one prepare for marriage and kids when you know that there's not a constant flow of income coming in? How important would you say it is in that regards? And also, when it comes to looking for housing, especially like if you want to live in an apartment, how important is it for you to also utilize the power of your bank account? Because from what I have experienced, you have to show them that you have the money if you don't have a quote unquote real job. So can you kind of give us that process? Like what are your thoughts about if you want to be married as an investor with managing your money with a family versus being just by yourself? And also the process of looking for a home in terms of apartment shopping.
Well, to address apartment shopping, if you don't have cash on hand, you're SOL to an extent, unless you can show bank statements that you've made more money in the past 3 months than what the rent will cost for the entire year. So your bank statements have to be organized. Also, as far as being prepared for kids, you do have to get the proper insurances. That will be an expense. The thing is, you pay out of pocket because you're an investor. You don't have a job that's going to pay for that. So a lot of things that you would get working at a W-2 you don't get as an investor. I would also say also your safety net should be rental properties. For some people, that might be single family rental properties. For some people, that might be Airbnbs. For others, they might say, you know what, I want to go buy apartment buildings because I want to feel as safe as I possibly can, having an asset that I know that I can never lose money on. The way you handle it, you have to be more, as far as going into a family, you have to be more mindful of how much you're actually making, and you have to manage it a lot more. You have to pay more attention to it. It's not like if you're single, like, oh well, like I just blow this here and I know I'm gonna make it back in a month. When you have a family, you always have to go and try to make more than what you think is actually enough, so that you always have more to cover any random things that may come up.
I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. I truly am impressed with his answers because, like I said, we were not scripted at all. This is all impromptu. So I just enjoy like learning about real estate in this format, and I hope that it is helping you all who also want to become real estate investors. So that is all I have for now. Can you please grow the community by sharing this podcast episode with a friend? And that's all I have for now. Until next time, I will talk to you guys later.